Hi everyone, it's Ange here. Tanya's missing in action tonight, so I'll be demonstrating the black ice technique that you can use on cards, or even if you wanted to add a little bit extra to your pages. So some of you who go to our regular buffet workshops may have seen this card before. And this is basically how you get I'm not sure if you can see there's sort of like the texture which is made from the clear embossing powder on our silver or gold foil cardstock that you can get in sheets. I think there's 3 in a pack. So you can get that both in silver and gold. So basically, you could use it on any stamp set, really. We're going to try using one of the current stamp sets, which is a true classic, to sort of give more of a male type card. This one here is just a wedding version. So without further ado, I'll just go through what we normally have in our card buffet packs. So normally we will have some detailed instructions that are with the packs, and they're usually, for card kits in particular, they're usually all pre-packaged in little baggies, and usually they will have everything you need to actually do the project that it's for. So you can see here we're just going to take some of that metallic cardstock out, and this is the stamp set that I'll be using tonight as well. They're not old, just a classic. Okay, so I'll put that aside. So with, just to give you an overview of how we basically create the technique, you need your piece of foil cardstock, so it's usually white on one side and your colour on the other. We'll be also using a solvent ink pad, which is the StazOn. So that basically is quite different from all our other ink pads, and they all have different uses. So I have actually tested this technique using some of our other ink pads. You still get a similar effect, but depending on what you're trying to achieve, here's a sample that I did with the archival ink for the black base. So you can see it's more of a blue tone, whereas the StazOn Jet Black is more of the black, if that makes sense. So for the prep, you've got that. We'll also be using later on Versamark ink. It's also handy when you have StazOn ink to have the cleaner as well, because it is a solvent based ink. You want to clean up as you work as well, because it dries quite quickly. And we'll be using some embossing powder in the clear Superfine. It's also handy to have one of these embossing buddies, which is basically filled with a powder to take away any static or fingerprints that you may have, and make sure that you only get the powder where it needs to be. Okay, so with stamping on foil, because it is quite a slick surface, we usually recommend that you adhere it slightly to the page. So hopefully everyone can see that. So I'm just going to place that down here. So I'm not entirely sticking it down. I'm just basically tacking it there, I guess you could say, so that we can remove it and that it stays in the right spot. Hi Kerry and Tanya. I can actually see tonight people commenting, and I'm just hoping that it's in landscape tonight. Okay, so we will get to the block. Sorry, my craft room's a bit of a mess at the moment, so we will just ink that up. So with these ink pads, if you purchase one, you'll actually notice that it's got a little plastic piece inside, and you don't throw this away. This is actually, it actually has do not discard on it, but it helps seal in the ink from your ink pad as well, so that less likely to dry out on you. The solvent ink does have a distinct smell as well, so you want to use it in a well ventilated area. Awesome, thanks. It is sideways. So we want a generous amount of ink. And I guess the hardest part of trying to stamp on a slick surface is so that you don't actually slide it around. So fingers crossed. It's always bound to go wrong when you're actually videoing it. So if you don't have one of our Close to My Heart mats, you can use the one that comes with the stamp set, just to give you some extra cushioning. So I'm just going to place that underneath. And I'll just add a little bit more just to make sure. And just line it up. I usually use two hands sort of leaning on the paper so that you've got more control over where your stamp lands. You just want to place that down and give it a moment without wiggling it. And if it's a detailed stamp, you may just want to walk your fingers over that just to make sure that all of the stamp transfers. And because it is quite sticky, sometimes it will want to stick to your stamp like it is now. You just want to try and get your finger in there. And I'll just bring that up for a close-up. Haven't worked out that functionality yet. So can everyone see that on the gold? So that's the first part done. And usually you want to let it dry for a little bit before you move on to any further steps. But we're also, because we want it to have that weathered look, what I'm going to do is just simply lightly start at the top. I'm hoping that's on screen. And you can actually add some more weathered look, and you can choose whether you take that all the way down or if you want some extra bits just to make it look. Every time you do it will be a slightly different technique, so I've gone quite dark there, but you can go fairly lightly as well because you can always add more. Can't take it off once it's on, unfortunately. So I'm just going to put that back. So you will probably need, it's probably wise to actually let that dry for about 5 minutes. And once it's dry, that's when you can move on to adding the Versamark. So I've got one I've prepared earlier for the next step. And this is just in silver. So you can see with this one I've actually gone a little bit lighter, light-handed. So I'm just going to run the embossing buddy over the top. And if you don't allow enough time for it to dry on the foil, what will end up happening is you'll end up with your Versamark ink pad with black marks on it, like that. Usually it doesn't, like if it's light like that, it doesn't tend to actually affect its usage. It just doesn't look very nice, that's all. So for this part, we're just going to do the same. So you're just going to drag it down, drag it down, drag it down. I'm just going to flip it around a little bit more. Sorry about bumping the camera there. So if you want more, you can add more. And you can, I don't know if you can slightly see because it is a clear ink where it's actually gone. So the true part of what it's actually, how much ink you've got on there, will be indicated when you actually add the embossing powder. So I'm just going to move that out of the way. If you don't have something to catch your embossing powder in, a piece of copy paper is awesome with a fold down the middle. So then that way you can funnel it back into your container. And we're just going to add a little bit here. So basically when the embossing powder is heated, it will actually melt on there and bubble is what we're expecting to happen. And I'm just ending up with a mess everywhere. I'm just going to take this off. Move that out the way. So of course, if you can see where the powder has gone, there's a few bits there that haven't been, you can see over here, that's where the powder hasn't stuck. So I have added quite a lot on there, and you can just give it a tap just to get any excess off. Okay, I'm just going to put that to the side. Bit fumbly today, and I don't know if you can see, I'm just funneling that back into the container. Also make sure before you start up your heat tool that you've covered up, put the lid back on your embossing powder. And these heat resistant mats are pretty handy to have around as well. I'm just going to put that down to protect the surface. And I'm just going to heat up the heat gun, because you want it preheated if at all possible, just so that when it actually hits the foil, it's at the right temperature to start melting it. Sorry about the noise. Not actually. So can everyone see, hopefully, that it's all sort of bubbling up? Apologies for that noise. You want to try and let it cool before touching it like I just did, because you'll end up with fingerprints. But if you've got some warping, you can flip it over and heat it a little from the other side as well. So you can, sorry, the light. So can everyone see the texture there? And you can see here is where the clear hasn't actually got on there. And of course, if you want darker, you can go back after it's cool and try that again. Okay, I think no one has any questions at all. No? Well, thanks for watching, and hopefully you guys, all these videos will help you sort of step out of your comfort zone and try something different. Okay, thanks for listening. Bye.